And hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our live trading workshop. My name is Daniel Sinek, and I will be your moderator throughout this workshop where we are going to use our volume IQ and liquidity IQ indicators to live trade, to use our real money, our live money, the markets this morning. And boy, what an opening it was with the non-farm payrolls just behind us. We're going to review what happened there in just a bit. And of course, today we're not only going to use these two indicators, even though these are our flagship indicators when it comes to day trading, but we're also going to use some of our other indicators to confirm if we see it fit our trading ideas. All right. So, but before we get into all of this, let me ask you a question. Can you hear me loud and well? And if you do, where are you calling in from? So I'm calling in from beautiful and cold Montreal here in Canada. But who else do we have? Please put your location into the Q&A box. Stephen from Singapore. I bet it's a bit warmer over there. Actually, was just in Singapore when was it? In November. What a nice city you have, Stephen. Awesome. Dean from Phoenix. Hey, Dean, how's it going? Siegfried aus Wien. Hey, Siegfried, wie geht's? Wayne from Boston. And Wayne, I have not forgotten about your requests. I'm going to get to this after this workshop. Robert from Kentucky. Hey, Robert, how's it going? Brian from Cincinnati. Nice to have you, Brian. Frank, yes, aus Den Haag. From Den Haag, the Netherlands. Awesome. Wow. An international club crowd, at least 3 continents. And Larry from Oregon. Hey, Larry, how's it going? So Europe, Asia, and North America today present in this live trading workshop. All right. So I also need to remind you that trading does contain substantial risk and therefore is not suited for every investor. If you trade, make sure to only use risk capital, which is money that you actually can afford to lose. When it comes to backtest performance or hypothetical performance, keep in mind that this is not necessarily indicative of future performance, and any trade ideas and strategies discussed in this webinar should not be construed as trade advice. These are for educational purposes only. And perhaps for those of you who don't know us yet, we are tradingindicators.com. So my name is Daniel. I'm the guy here on the left-hand side. And together with Homer, here in the middle, we have created trading indicators about 10 years ago. So we're nearing our 10 years anniversary. And boy, what a ride it has been. So we've been building indicators for clients all over the world. All kinds of trading platforms for, Trading View, what we're going to use today, for NinjaTrader, Wave, Thinkorswim, and many other platforms. And many of our latest innovations have been guided by our lead developer, Niklas. And also, Niklas will be here today with us. And in fact, he's going to do most of the work. In fact, he's going to be sharing you his charts today. And together, interactively, we're going to look for interesting day trading setups. Most of what we're going to be looking for today is based on what's called technical analysis. So we're going to try to keep the fundamentals aside because we believe these are most often immediately priced in. And by analyzing your price chart, you will indirectly also take into account fundamental information. And also we're trying to keep it simple. So what you'll see today is we're going to have a very simple chart setup, mainly focused or using liquidity IQ and volume IQ. And only every once in a while, we're going to add some additional indicators to our charts when we are looking for some extra context or for some extra confirmation. And of course, guys, this session is for you. So if you have any questions or remarks or requests, don't hold back. Please put those into the Q&A box of your Zoom window. All right. Now, what do we have planned for today? Well, first of all, let me start off with some ground rules. So we're going to be focusing on day trading today. Why? Well, because it's only a 2-hour session. So we planned the session for about 2 hours. It's around 9:30 now until 11:30, give or take. Because of this, we're kind of bound to day trading because we're looking to open, but ideally also close the trades within this session. We're going to primarily looking at trading futures. If there are some requests or interesting setups, we may also look at some stocks, but primarily it's going to be futures. However, having this said, if you are a swing trader or perhaps a longer term trader, don't worry because the techniques and strategies discussed in this webinar, these are universally applicable. So to any time frame. All right, so don't worry about this. Also, today we will be using TradingView as our platform of choice. Why? Well, because simply it's the greatest common denominator. It's the platform which, even though it might not be your, platform that you trade from, at least you will have heard of that platform. It's accessible to anyone, and its basic version is completely free of charge. And we believe this is the greatest common denominator, and this is why we're going to use TradingView today. However, if you are on a different platform, don't worry, because you will be able to apply whatever we do on TradingView one-to-one to your other platform. So no worries about this. Also, the live trades taken in this session, so these are going to be real money trades, not prop trades, anything, and not demo trades. No, we're going to use our real money account, our funded account with our own funds. The live trades taken today are meant to illustrate some of these strategies that we find interesting. Sometimes, because we do really want to take some trades, we're not, sometimes the market conditions are not right. We don't know yet. We're going to check out the charts in a bit. But sometimes, it might be hard to find trades. So in these cases, we may force a trade just to show you guys how we would enter into a position and scale out of a position. Just keep this in mind. But of course, we're going to comment on this as we go through. Also, to manage expectations. Is every trade going to be a winner? Well, maybe, but maybe not. There's no such strategy that will guarantee this. If anybody tells you, hey, I have a strategy with 100% winners, he's lying to you. But what we will do today is we will do everything possible in our power to increase our odds of having winning trades. Of course, why wouldn't we? So we're going to use multi-time frame analysis. We're going to look at support and resistance levels. We're going to look, what is the current trend doing? Where does the momentum pointing to right now? We're going to be using smart risk management. Of course, that's super important when it comes to trading. And we are going to be also aware of major market events. Talking about major market events, at 8:30 this morning, so about an hour ago, the non-farm payrolls were announced. And we're going to look at the charts in just a bit, but they did shake the markets quite a bit. So markets went down, a bit of a retracement. We actually looked at this morning, Nicholas and I, and now the downwards move is continuing. And actually, had we opened up this live trading session just a bit earlier, this could have been a great opportunity to enter short after this bit of a retrace here, because this is our classic zone break retrace setup. So we're just a little bit too late, but no worries. We're going to find some other trades. So this event is behind us. But of course, in the aftermath, things are extremely volatile right now. So we have to be aware of this. In terms of upcoming events, there's only one event which is classified as major, which is the Michigan consumer sentiment, to be announced at 10 a.m. So this may also shake the markets. We are going to be aware of this timestamp and trade accordingly around it. Perfect. So this is what's coming up. Nothing else major on the horizon today. Of course, this was already a huge event here. Market really plummeting. And I'm really sad. We're going to look at the charts in a second that we missed out this bit of a retrace. All right. So with this, one more thing before we actually get to the charts. Let me just quickly go back to my slides. We will be using today our key indicators on the chart, which are Liquidity IQ, giving you a bit of a overview of what is going on your chart. We also call it the telescope, because it will show you the big picture, the key levels to be considered on the chart in terms of support and resistance. So we're going to be using this indicator, and then we will be also using Volume IQ, our brand new, latest innovation to, find trade ideas within this big picture. So while Liquidity IQ is, some may say the telescope, Volume IQ will be the microscope to, really find interesting levels, when to enter, when to exit your trade. But having this said, we will also be using some other indicators as we see fit. All right, with that, guys, let's not wait any further. Let me see if there's any questions right now, which I can quickly answer. John is asking, where can we find the recording? It will be posted on our YouTube page shortly after. So around, I'd say around 1 p.m. Eastern, maybe 2 p.m. You can find it on our YouTube page. Simply go to tradingindicators.com. On the top, there's a YouTube icon. Click on it, John. It will get you to our YouTube channel and you can find the video there. So about 2 p.m. today, I would say it's going to be ready. All right. So without further ado, let me ask Niklas. Niklas, are you there and are you ready to share your slides? Oh, your charts, I should say.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Hey, Niklas. All
Hi, good
right.
morning, everyone.
I'm also
Okay,
gonna hide my video. Sorry, Niklas. And Niklas, please go ahead and share your screen. It's
perfect. Okay. So, so what we're going to start off with here is I'm just going to explain what we have on every chart and what our setup is. And then we'll get into looking at a lot of these trades. The setups we were looking for are already in play, but we're still going to see what we can get into. So first of all, on every single chart we have, or for every single symbol we're going to look at today, we have two different chart tabs open, or browser tabs. One on the 5-minute chart, and then just to get a little bit of a higher time frame view, we have the other one on the 15-minute chart. These are the time frames we usually look at for day trading. Now on each chart, we have two primary indicators, like Daniel spoke about, that we're going to use for our decision making, which are volume IQ, which is this profile on the right, and then liquidity IQ, which shows these resistance and support levels here on the left. And liquidity IQ on the 5-minute chart, we are applying it to the 15-minute reference time frame. So it's going to give us a bit of a higher bird's eye view of resistance and support. So on the 5-minute, we're looking at the 15-minute volume IQ. We have all the default settings, except we're using intrabar data to get a little bit more granular information here.
Can you
And
quickly show how to enable intrabar
sure,
data
yeah.
on Volume IQ?
So let me get over there. So on volume IQ, it's going to be in the last group of settings down here, detail, intrabar data. So what that does is if you're on the 5-minute, in this case, it's going to build the profile based on 1-minute bars. So it's a little bit more precise. On our 15-minute charts, it's the exact same thing. We have the same indicators. However, liquidity IQ on this, in this case, is looking at the 1 hour. So we get a much higher time frame view of resistance and support. And this is just useful because if we're on the 5-minute, let me just see if there's any difference here. Yeah, so on the 5-minute, we might see, hey, we just broke below support and we're falling. We have two zone breaks. But if we then look at the 15-minute with that longer term look back, I can see, hey, well, there's this level down here, this support level, which used to be quite important, which, is basically at 21,000. And I'm just able to see this much easier because I'm looking at a higher reference time frame on the 15-minute. So that's the setup we have. And on every chart, we also have our TI matrix indicator here. And I'm just putting this here just to help me keep in mind, what is a little bit of the longer term information. So I can see here, for example, on MNQ, it's pretty obvious, but we're dropping down and on every single time frame, it's telling us basically everything is bearish, even all the way up when you're looking at the 2-hour and the 4-hour. The trend's down, sentiment's down. We're just barely above a support level, which is probably this one it's referencing, and we're below resistance. And similarly, on something like Bitcoin, I could see we are having trouble here. We're going to talk about this setup in a second. This might be a good short, but I do keep in mind that, hey, on Bitcoin, things are still pretty bullish across most timeframes, and we're not below support on any time frame. So we'll keep that in mind. And finally, when we're about to make our trade, I'm also going to pop on our power panel, which has our super signals, just to see if there's any interesting, maybe a stop loss from volatility crusher or a super signal giving me any information to just put more confidence in the trade. All right.
And
So
Niklas, one more thing we should mention is what are we actually going to use to trade today? So how did we set up our trading account in TradingView?
yeah, so we have
For
our
those of you who might not know how we do it, but go ahead, Niklas. Yeah.
we have our interactive broker account logged in down here. And when we hit trade, we're just going to enter our trades here manually with the built-in trading panel on TradingView. And we'll have our take profits and stop losses placed automatically. Okay, so for our bracket orders. So without further ado, Let's look at the trade setups we're looking at today. So basically what happened is when that information came out this morning, the unemployment rates, et cetera, everything just plummeted, right? And MNQ here dropped 400 points almost, or 350 points in 5 seconds. And everything else pretty much did the same thing if you're looking at these markets like the ES or Bitcoin, which often follows the NASDAQ. It dropped as well. However, things like oil are just having a huge update today. Oil is blasting upwards. All of the metals, I believe, this is silver. Once they had this initial drop down here, we can see it came down to a support level. This is why liquidity IQ is great. There was a liquidity capture, and TI matrix also was probably a good indicator here. Everything's bullish. It plummeted with the NQ and the indexes, but then it just blasted up to near-term highs, big time. And this is on silver. I just curious. I'm going to look at gold. Generally, we don't like to trade something like gold and silver because oftentimes they're doing pretty much the same thing. But checking gold and then even checking copper here, a little bit less bullish. But yeah, the metals are having a big up day along with oil. So these are the symbols we're going to look at primarily here. MNQ, MBIT, which is micro Bitcoin. Micro oil, I'm not going to look at this anymore. Maybe I'll switch this to the Dow because this is on a very large uptrend, and I feel like we're kind of late to the party, and it's not good reward to risk for us to short or long at this point. So instead, I'm going to open up Dow Jones futures on this chart, and we're going to look at what setups are good right now. So what we saw here this morning on MNQ, and hopefully this doesn't carry away too quick, is we had a zone break here, right? A short zone break. And when I spoke with Daniel this morning around 9 a.m.,
Yeah.
our idea was this is our classic short break retrace setup. So we were saying, and I think these meetings in the future, what we should do is we should start them at 9:20 because then we'll be able to actually be trading in the first 10 minutes of the day. So what happened here is we had a short zone break. It retraced up to the level. This is very common setup. And then the idea here is once it comes up to retest that support, which now acts as resistance, you go short and you expect it to continue, especially on a day like this, which just surprised everybody. And you short up here, expecting it to continue downwards. That has already happened. If we are going to follow in on this trade here, I want to see some sort of pullback first. Because if we go short here, well, it's not that unlikely that we're not going to come back up and retest this support again. And on the volume profile, the only nearest sell area that will give us a good reward to risk is really back up around 21,100. So we're a little bit late to the short here. We might still go short, but I want to see a little bit of a pullback. I'm not going to chase it right here. I don't think that's smart, given the fact that it's 9:48. We have an event coming up in 12 minutes. If we check the economic calendar here, at 10 a.m., we have these multiple, whoops, that's Tuesday. On Friday, I don't know what this is, to be honest, but we have Michigan consumer sentiment. What is this? Index of consumer expectations. Okay, so maybe this has some effect on the market if it's in the important events here, which it is. I would expect it would. So we're going to wait to see what happens there. Maybe there's some sort of pullback upwards. This is pretty much the same setup, this short break. So everything dropped when that news came. And now we want to get in short once there's a pullback. That's basically the way we're thinking. The idea is we're going to get short on a pullback, but if price pulls back too much, and looks like it's going to regain the support, then we're going to look for what we call a long bounce setup, which looks something like this back here, which is price comes down, tests a support level, and then manages to hold it and carries up offwards off of it. So Bitcoin is probably a little bit more of an interesting short right now than NQ. So looking at Bitcoin, the exact same thing happened. Bitcoin obviously has a massive range, even on the 15-minute reference time frame. The resistance is all the way up 10,000 points above. But on Bitcoin, what happened is we dropped, not even down to a support level after that news. Then we retraced. We had got a bunch of liquidity captures, this like rounding off pattern. And now we're dropping. And right below here, while we're in a sell area, below price here is some more selling volume. So this might carry us lower if we do drop down there. I would have liked to go short up here, but I think it's a pretty, let me just check the 15-minute chart. Yeah, it's the same look here. We came up, tried to break this resistance, which is basically the $95,000 mark right here. We have a level 2 sell zone up here, which means ton of volume and a lot of selling up here. This is a great area to enter short. I'm thinking, Daniel, looking at the 15-minute, that entering for one contract as we approach back up to this resistance level, maybe not even being too greedy on it. Once we
Yeah.
come back into this zone, just take one contract short.
It's
It's not a lot of
it's
risk.
a nice looking chart, especially on the 50-minute. If you zoom out a little bit, you can clearly see that this is, a nice downtrend, and this is just a pullback, kind of in that downtrend, a correction before it resumes. At least this is how it feels to me, and the indicators are confirming this. So yeah, I agree with you. Let's put a limit order
Yeah.
in there, for a short in Bitcoin.
Yes. So, yeah, I think it's honestly pretty well. It's not that it's safe, but it's a good reward to risk, even to go short. Um, I was gonna say 94,500. We're basically at 94,500
Yep.
right now. Um,
By the way, guys, it's always prudent
let's take a market.
to
Oh, sorry.
enter to enter by a limit. Let's do a limit order.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where are we at now?
Yeah.
94,525. I don't want to miss the trade. That's the problem,
Yeah.
but maybe
That's okay.
565.
Yeah.
And let's put our stop loss up at 95,100.
Yeah, I like a wide stop loss, especially for something volatile like Bitcoin. We're only entering for one contract, so even, it's just a small position size. I like to
Oops.
uh, keep this
And
trade open because
yes.
I think the overall technical setup is very bearish, especially on the 50-minute time frame. But we may see we may give this trade a little bit of room.
Yeah, and I'm honestly not so sure. I mean, hopefully we get our order, but we are in an area of sell pressure. We did just have a big candle here. There's no buying volume anywhere. So
Ah,
it'll be nice if
yes.
we get this limit order, but I won't be surprised. It looks like no, hopefully we get it. And the
And
idea, like Daniel was saying with this wide stop, is we've got a 77, dollar Canadian loss here. I would put our stop right
yeah.
here,
Mhm.
which is basically we're going to give it room to retest this area, but if we make basically new highs of the morning, we're going to get out. What do you think,
Yeah.
Daniel?
Yep, I agree. And by the way, the reason why, and I like to enter by limit order is to avoid slippage. So with a market order, you never know what the floor price will be because depends on the bid ask spread. But the limit order, you're guaranteed the price that you want. And you may miss out, of course, it's a limit order. You need price to get to this level and you need to get the fill. You need somebody willing to buy at this level if it's a sell. But you know, it's a prudent thing to do, but Nicholas, always worried about we may not get the fill. That's the risk. But let's just wait a little bit here, Nicholas. I think I have a feeling we're gonna retrace a bit further up.
And yeah, and another good point about waiting for a limit order is, well, this morning. So what I would often do, and I'm not going to do that this morning because the reason why is it's very volatile this morning, the market, and we don't want to be encouraging taking risky trades. But a good thing, or not terribly prudent, but depending on your risk sizing and what you're willing to risk, is let's say your ideal entry is up here and you place a limit, but then it's looking like, hey, you're coming up maybe to our current limit price here, and you're thinking, hey, maybe I'm not going to get my limit. You can always scale in one and then one afterwards, but and dollar cost average. But for us right here, the market's extremely volatile this morning. So on a 5-minute candle like this, it wouldn't surprise me if, suddenly the market sentiment changes and this 5-minute candle is all the way up here, in a minute and 30 seconds. So it's
Yeah.
a very volatile morning, and it's never good to scale in too heavy when it's very volatile
And
and prices whipsaw.
yeah, and another thing, guys, is that don't undermine the psychological aspect of trading. So kind of with a limit order, you kind of tell the market, hey, this is the price I want. I want to get the fill at the price I'm comfortable with. And psychologically, you may discount this, but this can make a difference because you feel better about this trade. And once you feel better about something, you tend to be more logical in the aftermath of it to manage your trade. At least that's for me.
Great point. Yeah, well, it's definitely a good point. And then you don't feel like you're chasing the trade.
Yeah.
If exactly. And obviously you have a less to lose, a better reward to risk, which plays in your favor. And on Bitcoin, so we've got our limit order. Yeah, I do think that's a good limit order. That might look like, hey, price might retrace all the way up to here, but we want to strike a balance between getting in and missing the trade. And here right now, what just happened is this is telling us on volume IQ. And then what chart is this? This is the 15-minute. What's happening? Or sorry, the 5-minute. This is the 15-minute. So on the 15-minute, we've got a tier 2 sell up here, which is basically, I think a good place, a better place to place where is our stop? That's a little bit far away, but that would have been a great spot to place our stop loss using it as like an over under guide, which is this is a great place to go short. But if it starts to go into that zone, our stop loss is basically right here. If we start to come up to there, that's not exactly bearish. So that's a great place that we placed our stop actually. And on the 5-minute here, what happened is a bunch of volume trickled in here, right? And if I turn on just basic volume, if you use volume IQ, this is going to explain a little bit how it works. So yeah, there's a decent amount of volume trickling in here. A lot of volume popped in on these bars, or this bar and this bar, which on the 1-minute, which is the intrabar time frame it's looking at, volume IQ, trickled in through this area. So there's been a ton of volume right at the level where price is right now. And that's why it has become the zone of control. This is the zone of control, the area with the most volume on the profile on the 5-minute chart. And right now it's a tier 2 buy zone because Bitcoin, at least according to volume IQ's like trend analysis, is technically still bullish in the perspective of the volume profile here. And this right here is telling you, hey, this is a good area to buy. So we're looking at the 15-minute as well, which is why we're not listing to that. And look, we just got our fill. On the 15-minute, we see, well, the overarching trend is actually a little bit more bearish. And due to what happened this morning with everything dropping and then retracing, we're using that logic to make our trade. But I just wanted
Guys,
to explain. Yeah.
yeah, and this is also why we are using a wider stop loss because our main decision here is based on the 50-minute time frame. It's in a downtrend there, but since this is a higher time frame, we may need to give this trade a bit more room. So
Exactly. Yeah. So we've got our stop in. And the other thing, when you're considering multiple time frames is, don't have time frame tunnel vision. So yes, this is a tier 2 and we could be totally wrong and it flies up to our stop loss in 5 seconds. But this is a tier 2 buy, but the second price gets below the center of this zone, it's going to turn into a short signal. So right now price is basically fighting to hold, traders are fighting to hold this area. You can see this is where the big block of volume is. The bias is in our favor here with the bias block here. Most candles are down candles in this zone, but we've got the trade open. And look, actually, things just changed. Now, this is the level of control up here, and it is bearish.
yeah,
But we're going to let it play out.
And just
take a
one
look at
last
other
remark
charts.
on this, guys. Do you see the little trough there in the volume profiles just below price? If price manages to get to this area with very little volume, chances are it's going to just blast through this very quickly. We might be sitting on a nice winner, but we have to get there first, of course. We have to clear this big zone of control right now where there's heavy volume. But if we clear it to the downside, I'm optimistic that this is going to accelerate to the downside fast.
Definitely, especially because for the past, how long as well? Something like the past 24 hours, probably most trading volume has been above this area or in this area. So once we get down below there, any long is in the red, but we're going to see what happens. So let's take a look at MNQ. What's happening here? So MNQ, still that same setup we missed out on. We don't want to double down. I mean, Bitcoin doesn't follow MNQ, NQ exactly, obviously, but sometimes they do have some confluence. So I'm not going to double down
And
on a second short here.
And Nicholas, let's keep an eye on the markets right now because the news are going to come out any second now. So
That's
we're
a great point.
approaching
Yeah.
10 a.m.
So
Yeah.
what happened here is we had this short on this is on the 15-minute on NQ. We came down, basically got near this support level, and we're starting to retrace a bit, which is probably why Bitcoin's also fighting a little bit. How long do we have? 20 seconds. That I guess I don't know if the result comes out on the minute, but we're probably going to see some nice volatility, and we're going to either hit our stop or see some move to the downside. So while we go into that, we got our stop in place, so we don't have to be staring at this chart. Let's just see. We're looking at shorts on everything, right? But on silver and the metals, this could be our long break retrace setup. And here, the news just came out. NQ is dropping. So just like we said, at 10 a.m., there's probably going to be a little bit of volatility. That's why you want to be careful going into these economic events, right? And 21,000 is a massive marker on NQ. Zooming out, look at this. Last time we came down there, traders bought big time. Liquidity captures, we blasted up 1,000 points within 24 hours. Same thing here. We probably blasted up 1,000 points within 25 minutes here, or, an hour and a half. So this is the big moment for everybody right now watching NQ. And we're either going to see a big time loss of this support level, potentially hundreds of points of drop, although we have already had 300-point drop this morning. So maybe there's going to be a little bit of fighting here. There's definitely going to be fighting. But yeah, this is a big psychological level for the market right now, right? 21,000. Below that, that's not so nice for traders. If we look at the hourly chart, that's not pretty, right? That's like an abyss below us. And when we're looking at the hourly chart and we set liquidity IQ, I would set it to the 4-hour to get higher time frame readings. And how's our Bitcoin doing here? It's still fighting. So, there's not total confluence between NQ and Bitcoin, right? But this morning there was, so we expected the trend to continue. Let's look at NQ here on that hourly chart. So yeah, when we're on the 1-hour, we can see, yeah, look, 21,000 has repeatedly popped up as this big time support. This is not so good for our trade right now, actually. This right here, these liquidity captures are telling us there's lots of volume, but so long as it's continuing downwards, this just means everybody who is buying here is getting sold into, and it's continuing to drop. Why this is like a big precipitous moment here is if this breaks, well, where's the nearest big time support? Let me see if I can get on the 4-hour, maybe a better volume profile. But on liquidity IQ, the nearest support is then 300 points lower, around 21,650. If we look at the 4-hour, we're going to get a nicer volume profile. And I'm just interested in this because this is obviously the 4-hour is not that big of a deal usually when you're on the 5-minute, but this is a big moment in the market from any perspective. So the support is down here. Look, it's sell volume in these zones. So there's not really a lot of buying support for a while downwards if this level doesn't hold. I at least would think so in the short term. So I'm going to come back, apply our template again for the 15-minute chart. I think we've done our long-term due
And if you
diligence
look
here.
at Bitcoin now, it's moving lower, and now we're in that
Sure.
zone where we have low volume, guys. Look at this on the volume profile. And my idea was, hey, if we get to that area, maybe we're gonna see some rapid follow through because there's not much going on, which could prevent price from stopping there. We'll see what's gonna happen. That may not be true, but you can see this big bar already forming, of course, being in our favor now. And
And I take our profits, Daniel.
yeah,
My style is I take my profits once we get to the nearer end of that action zone, because once that we get down there, now traders seem to be stepping in more. There's not such low volume anymore, and I want to take my profits while I have them. We can always re-enter again,
yeah.
but the sentiment, like we're getting into this zone, if we do get some continuation downwards, the sentiment in this area is largely neutral, and there's even buy volume down here. So once we get to the lower 93,000s, I would like to take
And
profits
and what
and
we
wait
can
for a
also do
re-entry.
is adjust our stop loss at this point to break even, just to, or maybe even slightly in the profit, just to lock in this trade as a winner. Uh, Once again, this is about psychology. Whatever happens, hey, at least we'll break an even, maybe with a tiny profit. This is money management, and don't undermine the psychological aspect of it because you feel more comfortable with these decisions because maybe now we know, hey, we're playing with house money. Whatever happens, we're not going to lose anything. And this will allow us to hold on to this trade until we reach our desired target more
Yeah,
comfortably.
and another thing here is another thing we shouldn't underestimate. I think that's a good idea. We might as well, at least this way, you come out break even if we come all the way up here. And it's not exactly, and look, this is a tier 2 sell zone. So the second we get above this center of this area, and maybe let me just put on the labels to numbers. Make the font size
I'm just
larger.
going to answer a question real quick,
Sure.
Nicholas. Dean is wondering, are we using extended hours right now? Yes, we do. This chart
Yeah.
is on ETH. You can see it there, Dean, in the bottom right corner. It says ETH. On TradingView, that means extended hours. And this is our typical setup when it comes to trading futures, because you want to take into account the overnight action.
Yes. And I just want to put on, might as well see what super signals are saying, see if we have any confidence from it as well. What I wanted to say was another good reason to have placed our stop at break even. Yeah, we could take a profit now. But if we come above this area now, this is going to become a tier two buy zone. And in the short term, it is still bullish biased on volume IQ. So it's not exactly the nicest thing if we do come up there, and we can always re-short depending on what's happening. So here on super signals, we don't have a super signal, but volatility crusher and divergence cloud are both short, and they both have higher short efficiencies than they do long efficiencies. Short efficiency on volatility crusher is actually 90%, which is pretty unbelievable. And its target, the first target's all the way down at 93,100. So that's basically where we were planning to exit. Another thing I wanted to point out was why we like to look at the higher time frame is it's going to give us better information about where traders are buying and selling in the long term on volume IQ. And what I noticed is right now we're getting to the end of this sell bias block. So buyers are start to jump in once we get to the lower half of 93,000. They start to hop back in here once it looks like we might lose 93,000, and then they seem to be buying right below there. But I don't want to wait for that, right? We want to take our profits when we have them. Right now, things are accelerating pretty rapidly in our favor.
I'd
Um,
say we adjust the stop loss. So what you can do also is you can trail your stop loss. So of course we don't want to cut this move short. If we see a big follow through, we can as well ride the trend. But we want to be wary that hey, we may see a rebound, but just adjusting the stop is a good idea. Uh,
and
and had we a bigger position size, of course, what you can also do is to scale out a little bit and just let the remaining position ride. We don't have that in this case. We're just at one contract. So that we'll see what happens. We're going to monitor it closely.
yeah, and I would actually, hmm, this is like where do we take? I would take our profits if we come down to right here, Daniel.
That
90,
swing point, yeah.
yeah. I think actually right now we should take it.
All right,
I
good.
think that's just to be prudent. It's not like we can't reshort once more information develops, but just the fact that we're coming down to a swing point, there's the possibility it becomes a higher low. Um, and although NQ is probably going to drag it lower, I just think it's prudent to do that because we were getting out of our sell block on both time frames.
And there's nothing wrong with ringing the register early on. Your first trade is a winner. It sets the tone for the rest of the day. I like it. So yeah, again, psychology being a big factor.
Yep. So a nice 141. I think that's Canadian gain, 100 American.
Yeah.
So
Strangely, this is I don't know why TradingView does it. So down there in the PNL, you see the trade in Canadian dollars, but while on the chart, it's denoted in US dollars. Very bizarre. I'm not sure why TradingView does it that way, but just for you guys a bit of context. So this would be around 100 US dollars. A winner. A nice short.
yeah, definitely. And I still think that that was, a little bit of a scaredy cat take profit, but I wanted to ring, like you said, ring the register, right? Um, let's take a look at the 5 minute and 15 minute again. I mean, I'm not surprised if this drops down, another 1,000 points in 5 minutes. But I think it was prudent just to take that here because we're not going to be in the trades for that long. It's also possible it comes back up to here. And if it does retrace back up to here, guys, everything is still the same, right? Even if we retrace up to this area, 94,000, I think 94,000 would actually be a great place to re-short. If we came back up here, we're in a tier two sell zone. MNQ, I think MNQ is a lot more volatile and there's more money to win and lose on MNQs. And we were already more late to the party on NQ, which is why we decided to short Bitcoin. But MNQ is plummeting. If it starts to rebound, Bitcoin's also going to rebound. And because we were so overextended to the short side here, I was kind of worried we're going to get a rebound there and get stuck not being able to take our profit. But if we do get a rebound up to here, I don't know what you think, Daniel, but as we approach up to this shelf here in the volume profile, like that you can see this lack of volume, then we start to get more volume up here. I think this is a good spot to enter in one contract short again with a super tight stop loss, like right here.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. That's a good idea. And look what's happening right now. Of course, this may not last, but look at this swing point that Nicholas predicted. We actually now seeing some some upside action because this may act as support and price may bounce off from it to the upside. We'll see if it's short-lived or longer-lived, but if you see a bigger bounce to the upside, re-shorting in this area, which Nicholas is pointing out right there, is of interest, but we may as well lose it here. We'll see what happens. Nicholas, open up just for the fun of it, UB, the Ultra Bonds, Treasury Bonds futures. I see an interesting setup there, at least at first glance.
Sorry, I was muted for quite a while. Bitcoin is also still up 1% on the day, and MNQ is down 2%. So Bitcoin still has a long way to fall. So I think we did probably take our profits way too early, but at least we rang the register. So
Now you're saying, huh?
well, I already
I'm
knew at the moment, but I wanted to lock it in, you know?
I'm kidding. I'm joking. And of course,
UB,
had
these?
I see this is how another psychological aspect. So I know how Nicholas trades. He trades his own money all the time, and he's way more aggressive and he's very successful with that. But when you don't trade with your own money, in this case, it's our company money, it's a different psychological aspect. And then, of course, you're more timid. And again, psychology, you may do things which you may not do if it's your own account. So it's very
Yeah,
normal.
definitely. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. That's definitely true. Okay, so let me just check one thing here. So it was UB, right? Daniel, this is the
Yeah.
symbol?
So that seems like a nice area here where we do actually see some retracement after the zone break. And I'm thinking if we get up a bit higher, this being bearish, at least on the longer time frame, could be an
Yeah, let me
interesting
check the
short.
make sure I've got this. So 15-minute time frame.
So it is
Okay.
very bearish, as you can see. If you
Tier
see a
2
bit of,
sell right here.
yeah, exactly. So that could be of interest. Of course, it's not being a micro contract. This is a mini contract, so we have to be aware that this is going to be a more expensive trade to do, but nonetheless
I'm
interesting.
curious how expensive. So what nice thing about, and look at this. Nice. I think, you know, we already missed out on almost 60% more profits. That's okay. We might get a retracement. If we check here on UB, yeah, yeah,
I'm kidding.
shoulda, coulda, woulda. So what you can do on TradingView makes it really easy if you don't know how a contract works, is when you click the stop loss and take profit, it's gonna, oh my God, look at this contract, how much you would lose just moving up to there.
It is
$1,125.
very expensive. Yeah, always double check this, guys. There's actually a way to calculate this manually. Maybe back in the day, we still have some slides on how to do it. But there's actually the faster way is just to put it on TradingView. It will tell you if you get stopped out, how much would you lose? And there's also an easy way to gauge how expensive this one is. I don't
I'm
think
trying to
there's a
see, do they have
micro.
micros of this?
I don't think so. I think I looked for that before, but maybe, guys, if you know if
View,
there's a micro version
yes.
of UB available, let us know.
Is ZB the same deal? Yeah, just a different expiry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see how much it's probably the same. Yeah, it's the exact same pricing. But the nice thing about this one, despite it having this crazy cost, is if we came up, so on a one like this, you know, you would want to minimize your risk, right? We're not about to take 1,000 risk on this little trade that can fly up out of our favor. But if we were to take it, I would wait until we come up to here. And the reason for that is we'd have amazing reward to risk. If we shorted right here, the stop loss is very obvious. The stop loss is right here because this is the tier 2 sell zone, the zone of control. This is where it's telling you the best place to short. And then if we get above it, the best place to long to an extent, not really because we're in such a downtrend here. But we would go short here on what we spoke about in our Volume IQ master classes, which is our most common trade setup with Volume IQ, is called the tier 2 over under, which is this is the zone of control. And you're betting that it's either going to go over it and stay over it, or it's going to, you know, go under it and stay under it. So if we came up to here, we could short and then just place our stop loss right above it. If it goes above it, you know, well, we lost control. We lost the zone of control, and we would have a very tight stop with a bunch of upside potential.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And guys, what one quick comment on just to put things into perspective. So, of course, when Nicholas said, "Hey, we're not going to risk $1,000," why did he say this? Because this is above our risk tolerance. This is something personal to us because our trading account is, I mean, roughly for this one, for this kind of trading, it's roughly $10,000. Risking more than 10% on a single trade is above our risk tolerance. But this doesn't have to be the same for everyone. So if you have a bigger account size, or perhaps just because your risk tolerance is larger, then these trades might be viable. And again, this is a personal decision that you need to make based on how much are you willing to risk, what is your account size, and how do you feel about the trade.
Exactly. And another reason why this is a good trade, I mean, if we didn't have that same amount of risk, is on the 5 minute, it's a nice one because not only is this a great place to enter and set as a stop, basically, but you could set your stop at a nearby pivot. So looking for logical things like nearby pivots, like we did on Bitcoin, can easily guide your trading. And on the 15-minute chart, if you had an insane risk tolerance of like 4,000, 5,000 US on one contract, once you short here, and this could actually be used as our stop because on the 15-minute chart, this is the tier 2 sell zone. On the 5 minute, it's a little bit lower. So it's actually around up here on the 15-minute that it's telling us is the zone of control. But then you've also got from Liquidity IQ a resistance zone. And this resistance zone actually ties in with an area that's telling you, hey, it's probably going to blast through there. So that would be another good stop, maybe at the lower range here. So these indicators go well together. So I want to look at silver because, oh no, we were talking on our other charts a little too much. But on silver, what we were looking to
Oh
try,
man,
we
yeah.
probably wouldn't have got a fill here, though. We would have set our order a little lower. But this is a different setup here, a long break retrace. So on the other charts, what we saw was, where is my chart here? And by the way, this is a good example of using Liquidity IQ. So on Liquidity IQ here, why don't I see my levels? Oh, it's because I have it on such a higher time frame. They're probably far away or invisible. But if you ever see on Liquidity IQ a little red exclamation mark and you don't see the levels, it's because it's a complicated indicator and sometimes TradingView's server resources can't handle the calculation. So what you want to do is force TradingView to recalculate. So all you have to do is change any setting in here. You could just, for example, change the opacity of the green color and it'll force the indicator to recalculate. And this is the same for any indicator. On TradingView, sometimes they time out when they're kind of advanced indicators. So we'll see Liquidity IQ. So what we saw here on MNQ is a zone break. And I think it's actually on the, bear with me a second, guys, a little clearer on the 5 minute. On NQ, yes. So on NQ, what we saw, once these indicators calculate, and I think because the market's so volatile, their calculation time's a little slow today. We had a zone break and then a retrace to the level and then a drop again. This is this is Daniel's favorite setup, and it's one of mine too. It always happens basically. It's very
And
common.
And the way I like it is, yeah, get this initial break, but oftentimes the market tries to fake you out afterwards. And this is where you have that retrace back to the broken zone, now acting as resistance. So support has become resistant at that point, preventing price from moving high up, and instead it drops very quickly afterwards. So I like it because, you already passed that initial fake out, and then oftentimes the real move only unfolds at that point.
Excuse me. Yeah, and I find just anecdotally these retraces are more common. The faster you break the level, the more common a retrace is. And oftentimes, I just theoretically I like to think like, big traders weren't happy with the fact that they didn't get to size in fully. So they drive price back up so they can enter in short more, so they can profit more once the big move happens. On silver, though, we're seeing the opposite, right? So on silver on the 5 minute, we had a long break and then a long break retrace. So right now, this isn't moving up terribly quickly. And this has been a volatile morning. This isn't like on MNQ. Why I don't like this as a long break retrace setup as much as I liked the short break is because on NQ, the story was clear. The zone of control was up here. Right when we were here this morning before the news came out, this was a tier 2 sell. So it was telling you this zone is a great spot to short this morning back here. And look, it was. The story was clear. This was a tier 2 sell. We plummeted away. We didn't fly back up. to resistance, or there was no bullish sentiment whatsoever on NQ this morning. On silver, though, it wasn't a clear story. Going into the news right around here, this actually would have been fighting as a tier 2 sell or tier 2 buy. We plummeted to the downside, then we found support and we bounced up. So it's kind of a confusing story. It didn't just go in one direction, right? It actually reacted one way to the news, then flew the other way. That's not what happened on NQ or Bitcoin. They both just kind of flew down. I mean, Bitcoin had a little bit more of a retracement than NQ, but it's not so clear. And right now, it's not flying off of this level. But I still do think if we come down, it might be a good long break retrace. I would actually expect it to come down a little lower than this resistance. And maybe this would be a better guiding zone for us, is to see, do we come, this would give us better reward to risk. We can see there's good buying volume here. As we start to come down to the lower end of this buying volume and get to what we call like a floor here where there's lots of volume, I think this would be a good long single contract trade using this as our stop loss. Because if we get below this, we're going to accelerate downwards, most likely.
Absolutely. Nicholas, do me a favor, open up, even though you discounted the symbol in the beginning, oil. Because
Oil, yeah.
and in this case, let's change it up a little bit because we are overextended, but it's gonna walk you through how you can trade something where there are no nearby levels. So MCL here, we had this big move upwards. We are way above any resistance level right now, as you will see once this chart opens. The zone break happened as soon as liquidity IQ is on the chart. The zone break happened quite a while back. We are now trading miles off this resistance level. But Nicholas, do me a favor, put trend radar on just to see something.
Sure.
Because what you can do is you can leverage another setup of ours. We call this the pullback setup. So what you can see here in trend radar, look at all this greenish stuff in there with a bit of red. That means oil is bullish, very, very bullish. But there are a couple of retracements and pullbacks in the middle. And what you can do now as a trader, if you really want to trade oil, you can leverage these pullbacks in the anticipation, hey, this is just going to be a pullback right now, what we're seeing, and oil will continue its upwards move soon afterwards. So this pullback is short-lived. So this could be an interesting opportunity to potentially enter long into this overarching long trend. And ideally, we're going to see some support our other indicators. So liquidity IQ, it's too far away the levels, but volume IQ, perhaps. Not sure, Nicholas. Do you see anything?
Yeah,
of
what I
interest there?
see here, and I actually thought this is a good point. Another good time to, and we spoke about this in one of our webinars, is to put on super signals here, because they can have a nice reversal signal, like from Divergence Cloud or a bronze signal or something like this. But what I see here on volume IQ is I think this pullback's going to continue because we have a tier 1 sell right here. There's not a lot of volume. Although we are in an area where traders, I mean, obviously, you got to take into account that there's no history except for what happened this morning in this level on the volume profile. But there's good buying volume here. There's buying volume here. These are areas to expect the pullback to start to slow down. I would look for that. So I would take into account.
Yes, and if we get there, I would wager that trend radar, right now we have a level 3 pullback. If you look at trend radar below the chart, the first 3 rows are red. The last 2 ones are green. That's a level 3 pullback. We may even see a level 4 pullback. We've seen this in the past a few times, and then price continued after such a pullback. And this may coincide with that level that Nicholas just pointed out on volume profile. So maybe you can just put an alert there, Nicholas, to be alerted if price actually gets down there. This could be an interesting long opportunity. But of course, once again, at a very interesting price for us. We're going to wait for price to come down there. If it does, hey, we may consider this long trade. But let's let price get there first. We're not going to chase anything.
Exactly. And where I would put my stop in that case is we got a nice chunk of volume here. If we came below that, I would expect this to accelerate the retracement down to this level. So I would just place my stop right here at $76. It's a nice round number.
It would be a very aggressive trade with a tight stop loss. Absolutely. Gerald wants to know, Nicholas, and this is a volume profile related question. Keep the chart open for a second. A quick explanation. What are these reddish and bluish boxes in volume IQ?
So these boxes here, I'm guessing. mean, there's boxes everywhere. I'll explain them. So these boxes right here are what we call action zones. So these are basically areas where, based on the volume profile, we expect price to either accelerate or decelerate. And we grade them, we call them tier one zones and tier two zones. Basically, tier one zones are the ones, and let me just put on the rectangle, put on the number labeling so it's a little easier to explain. So these will change to being numbers. Basically, tier one zones are areas where there's like a drought of volume. So traders are not stepping in at these levels. There's just not a lot of trading volume there. And once this recalculates, hopefully this won't take very long. And let me just point out, so we have it in our mind that Bitcoin is retracing a lot upwards. It's way past where we took our profits. It's almost back to 94,000, which was our initial entry.
No worries, Nicholas. I'm not mad.
Oh, no. It's I mean, that's
I'm joking.
we would have
Yeah.
had less profit than we already took
Yes.
at this point. But
Absolutely.
it could be good for a reshort. So here, what we have with these action zones is we call them tier one and tier two zones. So maybe let me look at a chart where I have them set up in parallel like this. Okay, so a tier one zone is an area like this, a zone where there's just not a lot of volume in the volume profile. And you can see we color it. It gets brighter where there's more volume and darker where there's less volume. Tier one zones is where there's a drought of volume. So it's kind of like a gap here, or a cutout, if you can think of it like that. So when there's a cutout like this, there's just not a lot of volume there. A volume profile is a picture. We go back to oil. It's a picture of volume over time, right? So as time progresses and more volume comes in on the chart, that's what paints the picture here in the volume profile. Where was volume? So where there's more volume, it generally means more time is spent there historically. So down here, where there's a tier two zone, this is where there was the most volume. And we can see, just looking back with our eye here, this is an area where a lot of time was spent. And with indicators, the whole idea is that you expect history to generally repeat itself going forward. That's all that indicators really do. They use history to tell you what to expect in the future. So areas where there's a lot of volume, tier two zones, there's also generally a lot of time. So when price approaches a tier two zone, we expect price to slow down. And when there's a tier one zone, we expect price to accelerate. And we color these boxes either red or blue, or red or green, depending on what we expect to happen in them. And this is based on a lot of different information. I'm not going to go through it all. We have a huge masterclass and webinar on it. But when they are red, we expect price to sell through them quickly. And the logic, just using our human reasoning here, is right now we're above this area where there's not a lot of trading interest. Price doesn't tend to spend a lot, or didn't spend a lot of time here. So if we fall down into that area, well, what's going to stop price from falling? It's support, right? Buying volume. Because not a lot of time is spent there, if price drops into it, well, we expect that price is going to accelerate quickly through it because we're approaching it from the upside. We expect there's not going to be a lot of support or volume coming in to stop price from continuing that move downwards. This doesn't always happen. It's just historically what tended to happen on this chart. Tier one, let me find another chart here where I can explain this. So let me find a one that makes, okay, so here's another one. So back on that UB chart. So right now we just came up. So we flew upwards very quickly to a tier two zone. And the reason we know this is a tier two zone is this little square here. So we have labels for them. You can either use two squares to signify tier two zones or one square for tier one zones, or you can turn on the number labeling, which I think a lot of traders do because it's a little easier to tell, especially I have a 4K screen, so it might not be clear to you. Let me just let this load, and it should say number two. And that's very small. So let me make that huge. Okay, so yeah, and sorry if it's a bit of a convoluted explanation, but we do have full videos explaining this if you want a more in-depth view. So once this recalculates, okay, so this is a tier two sell zone. And basically the reason that is it's telling you that, hey, if price comes up to there and you're long, you might want to consider selling because it's going to start to decelerate the uptrend once we get to this area. And the reason for that is price tends to hang out there a lot. It doesn't tend to just speed through this zone. What usually happens historically once we get to this price level is price starts to chill out there and a lot of trading volume happens. Traders kind of fight for this level. And looking back on the chart, we can see a lot of time was spent here. This area, this exact level, right, the tier 2 zone, acted as a pivot multiple times. So price, when it gets to that level, often tends to reverse off of it. So that's another reason why it's telling you, hey, expect things to decelerate once you get here. The tier 1 zones, again, are where there's not a lot of volume, and we're not expecting a lot of time to be spent there. So volume IQ kind of gives you a story. And here, by the way, just pointing out our logic, this was our big time short entry area, if you remember, Daniel, on this symbol.
Yeah.
We wanted to go short here and put a stop. I don't like how expensive the contract is and how volatile it is, so I don't think we should do it. But here there's a tier 2 sell zone, and we are in a big big selling block. So the overall bias in this area is sell, big time. And we've got something telling us our upside potential is going to start decelerating right here. And look what's happening. We came in, we should have taken the trade, but we came up to here and it decelerated and then started to reverse off of it. Why? Because that's just what volume does historically here. And a lot of the times the pattern repeats going into the future. Let's look at another chart. So, and I want to see, Daniel, I'm just curious, what would be our risk here, right? If we had taken that trade. So if we sell mark a limit up there at 116 and we set our stop loss at 116.04, that's still a pretty big loss for such a small bit of volatility.
It would be disproportional with the trades that we've taken so far. So that's
Yeah.
I don't, if you want to grow your portfolio, you need to be consistent with your trade sizing. So you need to take this into account. So this would be a contract which would be too expensive and not consistent to what we just did with Bitcoin. And that's typically not a good idea because then one symbol will overpower others. So even with, let's say, a winning record, you might be losing because your position sizing is not consistent.
Exactly. So I
And
would
your
just
risk,
totally ignore
yeah.
that symbol. It's too expensive for us right now. Yeah, that's sorry. I wanted to get back to this on the super signals, which is when you're in a breakaway trend like this. Second, let me fix my stuff here. I'm just gonna remove trend radar so I have more real estate for super signals. So when you're in, we spoke about this in our Halloween webinar. When you have a zone break like this, and like Daniel was saying, there's no levels, right? Price is in uncharted territory, at least on this time frame. If I applied liquidity IQ to the 4-hour time frame, I bet you there's going to be I mean, I can't say for sure because I think oil has kind of been below this area for quite a while. But once liquidity IQ recalculates on the 4-hour time frame, I wouldn't be surprised if suddenly we get levels above price. And I don't know why. Oh, look at that. We are in totally uncharted territory, even with 4-hour levels. So let me go
Yeah.
back,
Oil
putting
has
it.
been sideways forever. So if you look at that really big, like a daily chart or something, you can see that it's been range bound for a long time. And
Mhm.
but many people say, hey, 2015, and of course this is really macro now, might be the year of the oil trade because if we manage to get out of the sideways consolidation phase, look at this, all the sideways action there on the 4-hour. It's been going on forever. If we get above this, we may see levels of 100 or more. At least that's the thesis of the opinion of the option professor that we collaborate with quite a bit. So he thinks, can we clear the 80 level of oil? We may see levels of 100 and even higher.
And yeah, on the daily chart, I mean, this might end up being a great area like down here to buy for something like that. And I just wanted to point out here on the 5-minute on oil, back to that point. So it's a breakaway, right? So there's no nearby levels, at least on this time frame for the indicator. Volume IQ is kind of telling us there's buy pressure here, buy pressure here. It's probably best to wait till we get down to like here. But when you have a breakaway trend like that, and let's say we didn't have volume IQ, well, super signals and the power bundle indicators are based on relative current price action, right? They're not based on the 1-hour resistance and support. So just like trend radar, they're really good for finding those entries in the midst of charts or just short-term trades that are great to take within any existing trend. So it doesn't matter if we're overbought, oversold. they're still going to be using the same logic. So once, let me wait for it to recalculate, and I'll see what we're seeing from these indicators. So right now, what do I see here? Well, divergence cloud and 1, 2, 3 strike. We haven't had a super signal. Oh, look at that. Wow. Really, I think we spoke about this in the Halloween webinar as well. This is like one of the best setups is liquidity IQ has a long bounce with tons of liquidity captures. We start to lift off and then we have a nice super signal here. This would have been an excellent trade
Yeah.
to take, quite obviously. Volatility crusher is long and it went long at 77. So this might actually be a losing trade for volatility crusher, but it took a entry all the way up at 77.45. So way up here, it went long. And we can actually turn on the indicator by coming into the settings and chart display settings saying, show me volatility crusher. So it went long up at this candle about, and it placed its stop loss all the way down at 76.39. Ironically, or coincidentally, I mean, that's where we placed our alert. We placed our alert at 76.37. So you can use these indicators to take trades in the midst of this kind of action. And one thing, I wouldn't do it because we placed our alert. I think it's a little wiser to wait to see if we come down to this area to go long, which is a little bit lower. But on volatility crusher, 76% of the time, the trade has been hitting its target, right? So that's a nice win rate. The indicator is not being terribly illogical with respect to the action on oil. So if we waited for price to come down here, or even if we entered late into this volatility crusher trade by taking a long right now, we would technically have a good reward to risk ratio because our stop loss would be right here, 76.40 or 39. That's only 30 cents away. And our target is $1.30 away. So it's like five, whatever that is, 4 to 1, 5 to 1 reward to risk. So according to one of the power bundle indicators right now, this could be a nice reward to risk trade to take. I'm currently looking at volume profile, and I'm a little worried that we would accelerate through that stop, but there is buying pressure here. So you do have a couple things in your favor. They're buying pressure. We're obviously in a huge uptrend, and we can use the volatility crusher trailing stop as our stop out.
Yeah.
So that could be a good trade. It's a little aggressive.
Nicholas, let's quickly, because of recent events, switch back to Bitcoin because we may see another short opportunity there. It's been retracing back to levels that might be of interest to us. You can see it there. I mean,
Let
the
me just
whole
give it a
market
5 minute.
as a whole, but price is coming up there back to our zone of control. At least it's a
I think
high
we should take
volume
this
node.
trade right now, Daniel. What do you think?
Let's
94,
let's do a limit order again.
94.20
Yeah.
and stop, or we're
Maybe
actually
maybe
already above
a bit
that.
higher than this, above the
94.180 maybe.
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And place our stop loss. I'm going to say right here. What do you
That's
think?
a very aggressive stop loss, but yeah, we could do
We
that.
can adjust it
Yeah.
after
All
we
right.
take this trade. I don't want us to lose our gains on Bitcoin by the trend reversing. And once we get above this level, this becomes a tier 2 buy.
Yeah.
And on the 15-minute chart, we can see that price can easily drive back up to this zone of control right here, which is all the way up at 95,000. Maybe we should put it a little bit looser right there.
Yeah.
And you know what? Another thing to consider right here is we are in this area of sell pressure. Once we start to get to the upper end of this area of sell pressure, and I'm talking about this buy block right here, that's not bearish anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised we come up to the upper end of this. But once we start to drive through all this historical sell volume, that's not a bearish sign, right? It's kind of telling us that we're probably going to drive back up to this resistance. And once we get up to that resistance, well, there's a chance we're just going to get a breakout. And on Bitcoin, um, we might get driven up to this zone of control here, and who knows what's going to happen
Yeah.
after that.
It's a risky trade, so it's an aggressive one. But of course, we're here to take trades, right? So let's see what happens. Once again, it's a very minimal risk on the table, just one contract, and with micro Bitcoin, yeah, we'll only lose a small portion, but it could be an interesting one to reshort because this is what can happen. You take your profits, but the short momentum may continue. We'll see. So
Daniel, what do you think about this stop loss?
I mean, I would if you zoom out on the go back to the 50-minute real quick. Let me just see what the bigger picture looks like. Let me zoom out a little bit just to see. So to me, I mean, a sensible stop loss would be even further away in the anticipation that hey, this downtrend will continue. But of course, if you want to not give away our profits, I would put it further away. Yeah, just give this thing room. We are trading mainly off the 50-minute time frame here. Uh, yeah, exactly. You want to give this trade a bit of room. If this downtrend continues, it may take a while for it to continue. So let's
I'll put the
see what
15-minute
happens.
chart on the chart that we're actually trading off of,
Yeah.
just so we have that with our position as well. So we do have, look, these little attempted pivots here. Let's put it a little bit above because we also have a nice psychological figure here, right? 95,000.
Yeah.
So if we go to test 95,000, it's not surprising that it's going to break to 95,100 or
And what
something.
does volume profile tell us in terms of what's going on? There are lots of sell blocks I can see. Of course, I mean, once again, you need to put this into context. We are coming down a big bearish move. So most of the price action was bearish in recent history. This explains these sell blocks, of course. But, in terms of buy areas, I don't really see any buy areas at all, huh?
No, and the reason why I wanted to place a tight stop was we're getting out of this sell block area. And I expect, I mean, it's not a big deal. We could put it even, here. But I was expecting that if we break through this sell block, it's almost definitely going to accelerate up to this zone. And this would have been the best area to short, which is what I was thinking was take a tight stop, exit, and then if it comes up to here, reshort again. But I think we're okay like this.
I mean, the logical point for your stop loss would be above the swing high there. So if you get above this, but of course that's a wide trade. But if we get above this, I think this trend is gonna reverse to the upside.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. And we were saying today we weren't gonna another good thing, guys, here, which we're not gonna do. But if we were being more aggressive, is once we come up to there, we scale in a second contract, and then we have that tight stop because then we're taking, the trade off the 5-minute and the 15-minute. But it's a very volatile morning, so it's definitely more prudent not to do so.
Nicholas, we do have a question while this is, so let's keep an eye on this. Ron wants to know, and this dates back to our lunch and learn session on on Tuesday. We looked at MA. What was MA, the symbol? Can we just put up a stock real quick? So that was a nice, oh, MasterCard. Oh, that was our
Trade of the week?
that was our trade of the week. Now I understand. Okay, I mean that's more of a swing trading thing. Uh Not sure what happened with MasterCard. Were the earnings coming up? Something must have happened. Yeah. I still like it though. It's a nice, this is of course for swing trading. Uh so this was to enter on a pullback. This pullback is still playing out right now. It's going a bit deeper than anticipated, but I still like MasterCard for a long.
Nice zone break retrace
Yeah,
potentially. And
exactly.
another reason to anticipate, I mean, look, this is a nice chart for many reasons because pullback, um, potential acceleration downwards right here. And I love when it lines up with just what you would expect without any indicators, which is we broke through 490. That was the zone break. And obviously, when you break 490, what is everybody thinking? It's going to go over 500, right? Which is what it did. It blew up through 500, retraced right to 500, bounced off. And now we're coming down. And this accelerating area, I would expect once we are in it, is going to accelerate a sell off perhaps to 500. Um, and yeah, maybe entering in long there, like right down here, expecting that, it still might go a little lower. But yeah, it's a nice trade for a zone break retrace.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Ron, we can cover this once again in our Tuesday session, how you know how this trade unfolds. We do a bit of a recap there. Right now we're focusing on, trading the smaller time frames. All
Definitely.
right.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to
And just going to answer
hide
one quick
this.
question. Yeah, the volume IQ for NT, it's going to be sent out today. So we just finished it yesterday. I just have to package it up and then send it out. You can expect an email from us later today. And please also send me, because I don't see your name, please send me a mail afterwards uh, to just remind you that want to change from TradingView to NinjaTrader.
Okay,
All
so
right.
on silver, that would have been we wouldn't have taken it because when we take zone break retraces, we generally like to enter in like at least at the level or a little lower. We barely even came into the volatility threshold zone here. So we wouldn't have taken that long, but you can see a nice classic long break retrace setup. Not so sure about this one. It's kind of volatile, so it might not be a long-lasting retrace. NQ, um, we were pointing this out, right? The big line in the sand today for everybody is 21,000. Is it going to do what it has done like 10 times now, which is come down to 21,000, go a little bit lower than it, and then bounce back up? And I bet if I go even further back, we can see that happening even back here. Break down through 21,000. I mean, everybody knows this happens when any index or any symbol tries to break a big round number. It fights with it for a while usually. So what did we have? We had the biggest, this is the lowest low on NQ since before Christmas, but we retraced quickly. So this could have just been a a fast dip underneath. We're getting now on the 15-minute chart a potential zone break retrace, right? So we broke through. This was the zone break on the 15-minute. We're in this area here. There's a bit of selling volume here, of course. That this might drive us back up here from the 15-minute time frame. We wouldn't take a short trade up here because on the 15-minute, that might play out over the course of many hours, and it is Friday. But yeah, this has been quite a retracement so far. So we'll see what happens. We've still got our Bitcoin trade open with our stop loss. Right now, this is on the 15-minute chart. This is a tier 2 buy. And when volume IQ is bearish like this, it's basically expecting that you're already short. And if you're coming down to this level, the way you would interpret this, so we're actually, we're below this level. So what we're trading right now is what we mentioned before, the over under. So we're trading betting that it's going to come down beneath this, right? And this is kind of like what we're using as our guide. If we were short from higher up and we came down to this level, like approaching it from above, we would cover here because we would expect, hey, it might bounce off of this area. That's not the case for us at this moment. So we'll let this play out.
Yeah. The whole idea here is that we will bounce off this level. Once again, this is the retrace, and if we bounce off, good. If not, hey, then we'll get stopped out of a relatively small loss. But yeah, the idea is to, play the same move once again, see how this happens, how this works
Yep.
out. Yeah.
And one other thing I want to point out is, yeah, big psychological figure there, 95,000. And it's also good to dynamically, I mean, this is a fast retracement. Same thing on Bitcoin. So oftentimes fast retracements retrace back downwards. But I would be aware here and stay aware that volume IQ is now back bullish on the 15-minute. So it was bearish when we were beneath here. Now it's bullish, and this is a tier 2 buy.
Yeah.
So that's technically a sign to buy. I think we should let this play out and see what happens. But
I
that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, the reason why I keep it on, I have on my chart here, I have liquidity IQ on the 50-minute, and it shows me we're right at this resistance level right now.
Oh,
So we may
yeah.
see that bounce off that level. I want to see if this works out. If not, we may close it out. But I'm looking for a short bounce here off this particular level where we are right now. You can see this
Mhm.
reddish zone there. That's the resistance level, and the idea is to price may bounce off from this level. If we power above it, well, then we're gonna close the trade. But let's see.
Perfect. So on silver, it's nothing interesting. Let's check out what's happening on gold and oil. So gold, of course, probably going to be the exact same thing as silver this morning. Excuse me. On oil, look at this. So
Hmm,
this
that
should
could
have,
be our level 4. Why didn't we get an
I
alert there?
accidentally dragged it down at some point, it looks like. We had it up here. We had it up at 76.39.
Put on trend radar just real quick to see what
Sure.
kind of pullback that is. It's a deep pullback to see if it's still level 4 or did we go below? Oh no, level 4
Level
now.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what you can do here is you don't want to catch a falling knife. That's dangerous. So I would wait for some evidence that, hey, this is just a pullback and the overarching long trend is going to continue. So if we see a couple of green candles, if we see trend radar going from level 4 to maybe level 3 or something, this could be an interesting long entry on micro oil.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
at that point it's good too, Daniel, because I mean, if we do start to see some support, because above us now is an area where if we do come back up to there, it might accelerate upwards,
Yeah.
for a quick profit. So definitely wait to see. We were kind of expecting this to see what's going to happen inside this area. Is this going to hold us support? So yeah, let's wait and see. Of course, oil is up, four or $5 in 24 hours. So
I
it's
want to see
quite an
some
uptrend.
evidence that this is stopping. Once we see some evidence, I think we should potentially go long there
Yeah,
to re-enter
definitely.
into this long trade.
Yep.
All
And that
right.
would be a big zone break retrace if it came all the way down here. This would be the optimal area to enter, guys, I would think. I don't think we're going to get there in the time frame we have, but look at all this buying volume.
Um,
Everybody, of course, was buying here. Not that much volume, though. So, I mean, price hasn't, it's not, there's not a lot of historical evidence for this, right? Because we're on the 5 minute. Maybe if we looked at, oops, the 1 hour. Well, even on the 1 hour, I mean, look, this is uncharted territory. That's why it's a good idea to wait for a nice retracement. But there is good places to place your stop loss if
yeah.
we do come down lower into this area.
And
You can place it here, here.
I'm going to answer a user question while we're looking at the market. Kirk wants to know, does Volume IQ work with the free version of TradingView? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Has no problem whatsoever. It will work with the free version, and all our indicators indeed will work with the free version of TradingView. So that's no problem.
Yep. I want to see here what we have from Super Signals. I'm just interested. Optimized settings, 3, 10, 8. What's happening on NQ?
We're still retracing.
Okay, yep. It's having a little bit of trouble.
Once again, this could be another short there to play the zone break retrace. And once
Yeah, that's
again,
why it's good, the time frames, right? We were on the 5 minute, we took the 5 minute zone break retrace while on Bitcoin. Then on the 15
yeah.
minute, the same pattern's playing out. So it's kind of like what's the word? It's like a fractal. When you
The
zoom out, it's the same thing.
the reason why I might be a bit hesitant, I don't know if you guys notice, is that Bitcoin and the index futures, they often tend to trade somehow hand in hand. They're correlated. So I don't want to overexpose our short. We already short Bitcoin. So by going short MNQ, this might doubling down basically on this idea that we're having. So at least keep this in mind.
That's why exactly why we split our symbols up here. Like usually what we do is if everything is going down, we're not going to look at 5 different symbols and trade 5 different symbols that are all in distinct downtrends. What we like to do is find some symbols that are in bearish setups and some that are in bullish setups. That way we can kind of like split up our risk and like diversify, your trades, right? You don't want to double down. You don't want to take a big short on NQ and then take a huge short on ES. I mean, if they both profitable, that's great, but why not just size into one? So you don't have to be splitting your attention. And it
Exactly.
depends, whichever one has the nicest setup based on things. We haven't even looked at ES today. So ES, is pretty much a lot of the time like the image we have here of these levels. If we swap over to ES, there's a good chance it's going to look almost the exact same. So if we snap over to ES, once it recalculates, just wait a moment here. Look, it looks the exact same. If you have the
Yeah.
snapshot in your brain, we had a support here, and a resistance up here on NQ. It's the exact same chart. And look, zone break retrace, the exact same setup. But sometimes, depending on, they don't follow each other exactly, right? They have different ranges and volatility. Sometimes you'll find that just the way price is currently positioned with respect to the support levels, resistance levels, or what's happening in the volume profile, sometimes it's just a better risk reward to enter in on one symbol than it is another, just based on the technicals, because we're trading based on the technical information we have. And we want to take the one that gives the best reward to risk, right? So there's no reason picking a favorite unless it has a better setup. On this symbol right here, for example, on ES, to me, this, if you were taking this short retrace, which we're not, this is a worse setup than NQ because here I would go short here. I'm right down here at a support level. So this might hold and stop price from going lower. Right above me, there's something that's going to, a zone that's probably going to accelerate price upwards. And the area that's offering resistance is far away in terms of percentage points, right? It's all the way up here. Whereas on M and Q, we had already come up into that resistance level almost, or the volatility zone around resistance. So we came up into there. So we weren't, if we had taken a short there, it's not like our stop loss, which would have been somewhere around here, like this pivot. It's not like it was miles away like it was on ES. So NQ would have been the higher reward to risk trade to take here, even though they're both giving the same setup. Oil is really falling. So this could be a good trade. I don't think it's going to be in our time
Yeah.
slot, but
But
if it comes
but
down
you
low.
want to see some evidence that this will continue to the upside. You don't want to catch a falling knife. That's why I said,
Yeah.
hey guys, even though this is a nice pullback, we want to see some green bars and this pullback becoming, fading out basically, which is not the case right now.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see any of that until maybe the lower range here, like below 76, or more likely down in the mid 75s. We'll see though. Look, there's pivots here, and there is buying volume right there. So we'll see what happens. Let's check our Bitcoin trade. It's basically flat. Volume IQ is now we're below what the machine learning or continuous optimization volume weighted moving averages are telling us. So it's bearish again there. This is a tier 2 sell. We'll see what happens. MNQ is still fighting for 21,000. Big level. I'm expecting, I don't know if we're going to go below it in our time slot, but let's just wait and see. We've got our trade open. We don't really see any nice trade setup to take at this point in time. Everything is still kind of playing out. What about the Dow? We haven't looked at that. It's probably going to look the same as ES and NQ.
Look how trend matrix or TI matrix is all bearish
Oh my
across the
God,
board.
yeah.
That's like the perfect bearish score.
That is,
30.
yeah, that's as
That's 20.
bearish as
What's that?
this.
20? It's 20. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most bearish you can get for the intraday time frame. And
And
like
maybe,
look at,
yeah.
sorry.
Sorry, Nicholas, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. Maybe since we have a bit of time here, maybe explain quickly also what you actually can see in TI matrix.
Sure, yeah. And let me just select these because I just already had it open. I want to see what super signals are showing as well. So let me just wait for this to recalculate. I wanted to know what is the efficiencies to the short side. So it already hit target 1 here, target 2 down here, 76, 73, 59. That was a really nice short signal there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talking about short signals, Dean just pointed out we probably could have caught that big pullback on oil after the high there with 1 to 3 strike. He says there was a nice short signal around 10 o'clock today, which I guess would have played out. Can you just put on one
Oh,
to three strike real quick?
yeah, sure. Um, okay, let me just apply the indicator itself. 1, 2, 3 strike AO. Bitcoin is falling in our favor. MNQ is beneath. So you see, that's the confluence we're talking about. MNQ is beneath 21,000 for the moment, so Bitcoin follows it. That's why we don't want to expose ourselves. So let's go back to oil. So let's put on the best settings. And what we don't know what time frame
Look
it's
at
looking
just
at.
this long trade before this. Woo, so
And
beautiful.
yeah, and it's not even the optimized settings. Let's see what I think probably the short trade would have been on the 5 minute. So a nice long trade here. I think the short probably going to be on the 5 minute because there's not enough data on the 15 minute. Let me see. And I'm not sure what time frame you were on. There's a short signal right now on the 5 minute here on 123, but I wouldn't take that. There's a 62% efficiency and we're kind of oversold just based on that indicator, or
Yes,
at
Dean
least in the
says
short term.
5 minutes. Was that the signal you're seeing, Dean, or did you use different settings for for 1 to 3 strike? In any case, yeah, this is what you can do no matter what. If you're trading out of levels, like the liquidity IQ levels are too far away, put on the other indicators, the power bundle indicators, to see if you Can see some interesting entry signals there and trade off those.
Definitely. And oh yeah, I'm going to explain in a second just how, yeah, what that meant on TI matrix. So divergence cloud has a real nice signal right here. Let me just see what it is on the optimized settings. 65% short, no short signal here. So it was okay on the manual settings, but no signal.
If we
So let's
see
go
this come down to this level, Nicholas, I'm thinking go
go
long.
long.
But this is long. This is miles away. But the way oil is dropping right now, it's not an impossibility. And that would be the classic zone break retrace.
Yeah. Yep. So let's keep an eye on this. I'm going to open it up in our trade tab. Okie doke. And this is on it's a good idea as well. Yeah, let's take a look at it on the 15 minutes. And you can tell, look, the trading view is taking a long time to calculate. We have a lot of indicators that are pretty complex on the chart, but it's taking way longer than usual. And you'll notice this on days like this. This is a super volatile day. There's a lot of trading volume on all symbols. Look here, look at this spike. See this volume? Look at that. When has volume been that high? Not for months. It hasn't been that high. So that's another reason why the indicator is taking a while to calculate. TradingView servers are getting tapped by the amount of trading activity. So look, nice silver. This is excellent. If we come down into here, I think we should place a limit order, Daniel.
Yeah,
And let's
I
place
agree.
a stop, maybe 75. I'm
This,
thinking 75 4. How about
yeah,
that? With a
and the
stop
stop
loss,
below, yeah, even a bit, yeah, give it, yeah, exactly there, maybe.
74,
Just,
73, because then
mhm,
we're out of the buy area.
yeah, good
Okay,
point.
yeah, good idea. And if it did drop even further, Daniel, this would be another nice area, right, to buy.
Yeah, yeah, this is kind of, I'm just worried about the volatility of that move. Maybe Nicholas, let's just see how it approaches this level. If it's too, we'll see. Let's put I mean, well, it's a small trade no matter what, $63. Um, but I would like to see some evidence that it stops there. It's
Yeah,
probably going
let's
to
not take the
hesitate a
trade.
little.
Let's just watch it.
Let's watch it, but maybe we're going to enter at market. But I want to see a bit of evidence as we get into this. And Bitcoin, as predicted so far, at least, we are bouncing off that resistance level. So well done, Liquidity IQ, that the bounce seems to happen. And Nicholas, just lock in this, put the stop to break even. Because if you go up again, I'm not too confident that
The break even though, Daniel, is
that's
below this
very.
level two.
Is it?
I
No.
think, yeah, it is. The break even is right here, and our level two is up here. I think that's not a good idea. I think we should put our stop like a little like here.
Yeah, this should be the break even, no? I guess
No,
that's
our
what we.
break even is at this red line.
Oh, it's just exactly there?
Yeah.
No, that's what price is, no?
No, prices. I don't have the price line on. Price is down here,
Oh, got
and
it.
this is
Okay.
our position.
I see. I see. Yeah,
So
I'll
I
keep
think it's a little
keep it
better.
there, but and
Like right here, that's like a $30 loss.
yeah.
Um,
Okay, perfect.
yeah, just because I think we're probably going to be hitting that in a second. MNQ is kind of driving Bitcoin down. We'll see. I mean, it's bounced off of this level so many times. I kind of don't expect it to go down. Of course, tech, NASDAQ is obviously very up biased in any time frame. Um, let's go and explain this now. So on YM, on my own account here, I would even be considering, I mean, if we retraced right to here, going short and chasing this, but everything is kind of struggling to go lower. Everything's kind of following NASDAQ right now, or ES. But here on what we're seeing here in TI Matrix, so basically what it does is it looks at 5 different, we call combined time frames. So whatever time frame we're on, it's going to auto adapt. So we see here it says the 1 minute, 10 minute, 30 minute, 1 hour, 2 hour. And these are actually combinations of time frames. So we have a video explaining this, but this isn't just information from the 1 minute, it's the 1 minute combined with the 5 minute. This is the 30 minute combined with the hour, so on and so forth. And basically what it does is it looks at how is the trend? Where's price in relation to trend? Is trend down? If it is, it's going to give a down arrow. If it's up, it's going to give an up arrow. Sentiment, it's going to look at momentum and a couple other indicators across multiple time frames, like all our indicators. It'll be down for bearish, up for bullish, and up, down, a gray arrow for neutral. And support, when what we can actually, and if it's red here, it means we're below the supports from these time frames. So we can see we're below all the supports. And this is actually based on some of the logic from Liquidity IQ. So that's coded in here. And we can see, hey, yeah, we are below the supports on all these time frames. You're right. And we're also below all the resistances. And then it counts up the arrows. So if there's 4 bearish, it's going to give you a score of 4. And it adds them all up. So across all of these 5 time frames, we got 4 times 5, negative 20. That's as bearish as you can get on this indicator. And if we hop over to another time frame, like, hey, we're swing trading on the hourly, it's not going to look at those time frames anymore. It's going to update. Now it's looking at the 1 hour, 2 hour, 8 hour, daily, weekly. And even on this time frame, we're still pretty bearish. So, excuse me, it adapts, and you can also tell it to look at other stuff, any specific time frame. So even if I'm on the 1 hour, maybe I want it to look at the long-term investor perspective. So it's going to look at even higher time frames. So the monthly even, so we can see, hey, we're bearish on these time frames, but in the investor perspective, we are bullish. So you can think about that like trend radar, like, hey, we have a pullback in the short term, midterm, but we are long-term bullish. And finally, the last thing I wanted to mention about this, in case you didn't know, and in case you have it already, is you can change the values to actually from arrows to values. So now it's going to tell me not only are we below support, but hey, these are the supports that we're below from those time frames. These are the resistances that we're below. These are the trend lines that are being used to calculate if we're bearish or bullish. So it's pretty useful across the board. So this was YM. Oil, oh my God, still dropping. Still, I agree. Let's see. I mean, look, what happens here is although we do have buying pressure, you got to take into context what, you can't just blindly follow an indicator. Volume IQ is on the 5 minute. It's looking back 500 bars. This volume data, look, some of these levels have 564. I mean, look, you probably can't see it because I'm on a 4K screen. So let me increase the size of that text. So let me put this to normal. But basically what I'm trying to point out is, yes, there's buying, it's buy-based volume, buy-biased volume here, but it's just based on this breakout. There's only 400 contracts being taken into account here. Price can just plummet through that. I mean, even look right here. 10,000 contracts are traded between these 3 levels. This is nothing. This can easily get sold through. So that was a great thing Daniel's pointing out is let's see how it actually behaves here and not just
Yeah.
blindly follow this level. We've also got, it's even telling us. So volume IQ is not only telling us here that there's not a lot of volume, it's telling us with our action zone. It's saying, hey, look, there's a tier 1 sell zone here because we're falling into an area where there's not a lot of volume. So it might just accelerate and fall further. And if it does fall further, now we're out of the buy bias. There's sell volume here, and then we're entering into another area where it's telling us, hey, we might just sell right through there. So, the prudent thing here might actually be to see, does it fall through here? And then does it fall through here? Because the big area where there's tons of volume and it's telling us it's probably the smartest place to be looking for a long is down here as we're approaching the tier 2 zone, where we might expect things to decelerate and stop dropping so fast. But look, this
We'll
is the
see. Yeah.
first time a candle has bounced in
Yeah.
this whole drop.
Yeah, and once again showing the importance of these levels. It may not hold, but at least there's some hesitation on price for the first time in yeah, quite a while. The price actually is, slowing down and respecting this level, at least to some degree. Let's see if it holds. If it holds, I mean, this could be an interesting aggressive trade if you stop loss just below that level. Well, let's see. Let's
Yep.
see.
And on a symbol like this, sorry to cut you off, Daniel, were you going to say something?
No, no, go ahead.
On a symbol like this, when things are this wild, right, and there's no nearby levels, I always zoom out to the 15 or 30 minute, because I want to just get that higher. I want to not have time frame tunnel vision, right? That's always a huge risk when you're day trading. So I want to come out to the 30-minute chart, put liquidity IQ on the 2 hour, because things are moving so crazily that these moves might span very large ranges that we might not see from something like the 5 minute. So hopping out to the 30-minute, I can see, hey, the level we broke here maybe isn't even that important, right? There's still a tier 2 zone down here. A lot of buyers down at this support level. And I mean, this is way too far back for a day trade, obviously.
But look at this
But
beautiful
yeah,
back then. I mean, just to point out the retrace up there, retraced, then up again, retrace almost to the T to that level, and then the move really continued. So it is a powerful pattern. We'll see what happens here because that downwards move is quite volatile and aggressive. At the minimum, I'd like to see a liquidity capture, even though I'm not sure we're gonna see these at these levels.
we
Probably not,
would.
huh?
We
You
would
would?
here.
Okay.
At this level, yeah, I would definitely want to see a liquidity capture, which tells us that price is having trouble. And on the 30-minute here, price is having trouble breaking this level. On the 30-minute, we can see, what would be a nice feature is having the
Yeah.
option to consolidate the volume for bias blocks. So instead of seeing 2,000, 1,000, 3,000, it just gives me one total number for this block.
Yeah.
Or maybe put that to the right. But
Nicholas, a quick question while we're looking at this.
oops,
Gerald wants to know how on TradingView, and then we can talk about Ninja too. How far do we go back to calculate the volume profile? How many bars?
500 bars. That's the maximum you can look back on TradingView.
Yeah.
So
On
that
Ninja,
is what it
however,
is.
it's a different story, right? So on Ninja, we can customize actually the number of bars you want to look back.
Yeah, so here's the completed version here, right here, and you can look back as many bars as you want. So if I've got a few thousand bars on the chart, I can tell the indicator, hey, give me a volume profile for 2,500 bars, and it'll do that in a split second and give us a longer view.
Yeah, awesome. Super excited to have the Ninja Trader version out there. So guys, you can expect it today. If you don't get an email, please send me one because that means I probably didn't keep track of who requested a switch from TradingView to NT8. But for those of you who have already sent me a message, you can expect the indicator later on today in your inbox.
Yeah, and look at this. This is a zone break retrace so far. I still think it's probably going to come lower today. We might come up higher, but oil is on such a tear. And this, I mean, the size of this candle, I always want to make an indicator that works on that. We had some prototypes, but the size of this candle right here, this down candle, in terms of, well, maybe not in terms of percentage, but I do think, yeah, probably in terms of percentage, especially if we looked at an hourly candle, that is maybe the most oil has lost in 1 hour in months, right? I mean, maybe back here is the biggest comparison candle right here, but that's definitely not a bullish sign that it sold off so quickly.
Yeah,
Our
exactly.
Bitcoin trade still playing out. MNQ is the big dragger of the market here.
Yeah, we
Uh,
did have the retrace. Honestly, I would not be surprised. I mean, it's Friday today. Um, Price action may slow down as the day continues. We also had the market holiday yesterday. Uh, so it's a bit of an unusual day. We typically don't even trade on Fridays that much. We do it, of course, but not typically. Wednesdays and Thursdays are the easiest days to trade as things are less constrained, meaning that the market is not going to close anytime soon. And it's been open for a while, so it's not. So this is not the case today. And of course, we had an NFP today as well, which was a huge market shaker.
yeah, and oftentimes I find on Fridays, um, there's oftentimes big reversals at the end of the day as traders look to get out of their position. So if everybody's shorting and we're dropping all day, in the last hour, a lot of the time, it just buys back up really quickly as all the shorts cover and they
Yeah.
don't hold over the weekend. We had somebody
And
ask, is I don't know if that's the case, if Tasty Trade works with options on TradingView. It definitely has a connection right here. I don't know if it
yeah,
works with options.
yeah, Robert, give it a try. And let us know if you have Tasty Trade. We don't even have an account with Tasty Trade, so we could not test it ourselves. But perhaps give it a try and let us know how it would connect to Tasty Trades, which is an options broker, and if our indicators would work with that. That could be something of interest to point out also in our next Lunch and Learn session.
Definitely. So what happened here? This was that trade we were thinking about but weren't going to take because it was far too much risk. It's still, so this was a good, we had that question about what do the action zones mean? Acceleration and deceleration, right? So what happened when we came down? Well, actually, no, that actually wouldn't have been there at the time. But what happened when we came up to this level right here? We accelerated, we blasted through it. What happened when we got up to this tier 2 zone, which is a decelerating zone? We started to chill out, right? Because the volume profile is volume over time. And yeah, I think we got that across. So YM, hey, look, things changed. The sentiment now is not entirely bearish. So now it is neutral and we're not negative 20 anymore. So maybe
Oh,
that's a sign there's going to be a pullback.
yeah. Even though we're negative 19, it's not too far off. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, NQ, is this NQ? No, this is Bitcoin. So our Bitcoin trade still sitting basically flat. Um, we've got our stop here.
I do want to see some quick follow through there. If price chills out there too long, this can also see hesitation. Hey, this zone break retrace may not pan out. Typically, the faster you see a follow through, of course, the better it is. So let's keep a tight eye on this. If things slow down too much, we may just as well close out that trade prematurely. But let's see.
What we're seeing here too, and like why I mean it's smart, right? We don't want to take, especially when we're closing out the session, we don't want to eat into our gain too much. But why, if we were trading for a longer period, I might give this more breathing room,
Yeah,
is oftentimes this follows NQ. And right now, it's not following it. It's kind of trying to hold against the momentum, the dragging down momentum of NQ, right? NQ's dropping still. It's almost at low of the day, while Bitcoin's kind of trying to hang out here. I think if NQ falls and breaks to new lows,
yeah.
then this is going to drop down way faster than people are expecting. But right now, it's not doing that. So, like Daniel said, if it chills here too long and this doesn't do anything soon, it's good to just hop out, and we might get
Maybe
stopped out
just comment
anyways.
real quick the fact that it's currently in a tier two sell zone and we have bearish momentum. What does this tell us?
This tells us this is a high probability place to short, and a lot of things are in our favor. So we've got the most trading volume above us, and we are below that price, and we're in a downtrend. So most trading volume has come in up here. I mean, this is like a very simplistic way of looking at it, but the way I think about it is anybody who, or the majority of people who have been buying in this look back, were buying around here, and right now they're underwater. So if price, and we have a downward sentiment, if price continues downwards, they're going to be motivated to sell, right? Because their loss is going to be getting larger. So we have a decelerating thing above us, which is basically resistance. This telling us there's resistance up here. There's a lot of trading volume, and we're in this sell block. So people like to sell in this area. Um, the zone of control is being lost to the bearish side, and we're in a downtrend. So it's like three different factors telling us, hey, this is a high reward to risk place to enter a short trade. And the stop loss, we just have our stop loss here. It's not based on like pivots or anything, but that's just
Maybe
because we
maybe
want to
put it
protect ourselves.
a bit higher, just make it more
Yeah, I'd place it like
reasonable.
right here at this
Yeah,
pivot. Because this is also 95,000, which is
yeah,
a round number, right? So if we get over 95,000, that's not good for us. Um, But let's wait and see. We'll let it
yeah.
play out. I
Cool.
do think, though, that Bitcoin is really holding its own here against what's happening on NQ. So that's kind of bullish for anybody long on Bitcoin. So yeah, it's not a good idea to have a terribly wide stop here either.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. What about oil? Did we see the slowdown there?
Yeah, let's hop over the 15
Oh,
minute.
look at this. Honestly, this could be an interesting long opportunity there. The classic zone break retrace. I mean, it's and do you see the power of these levels? It wicked into this level, and then the hesitation happened. And this is not a coincidence. It's because this level was there from Liquidity IQ.
Yeah, and when we do automated strategies like with the Motive Wave or NinjaTrader Strategy Builder, um, and especially when we first released Liquidity IQ, and the way I'll often trade these setups is if you're scaling in, the idea with this zone right here is this is like the threshold of the logical area that it's probably going to wick into if it is going to bounce off of this level. So what happened here is it came down into this zone, but didn't actually return right to the resistance level that broke, right? So if you were waiting for price to come down to there, you wouldn't have gotten an entry. And then you would have missed out on whatever the short-term gain might be, although it might be erased very quickly. So what we would often do, or a strategy that's viable, is let's say you want to end up with this position size of 6 contracts. Well, you would scale in 1/3 of those contracts once we get to the upper end of this box. You'd scale in another third if we come down to the middle, and then your last third when we come down to the lower end. This way, you end up with an average price of that exact level, the center, and you're fully scaled in. And if we don't come down to those lower areas, well, at least you got in for some of your desired position size. So that's why we, in part, created these zones just to tell you, hey, And these are based on volatility, right? So the higher volatility is, the bigger this zone is. And the idea for that is, well, if it does act as support once we retrace back down to it, it might not act as support, to the T, as we say, right? So this level's exact price, we look up here, is 75.29, or I think it is. Yes, that's 75.29. So if price breaks through 75.29, which it did, which was resistance, when it comes back down, doesn't mean it's going to come down back to 75.29 exactly, right? It might come down to 75.40 or something, and then traders say, "Hey, okay, I'm buying. It's on sale right now." So it's good to use these tolerance areas just as a guide. Um, yeah, and we can see here there's a lot of buying volume here. This might act as a little accelerating area, but hey, we were prudent here. It wasn't a smart idea to sail in our
and
full one contract there.
the reason why it was just the speed of that move downwards. I was, I said it before, catching a falling knife. It felt like it, and we, in quotes, chickened out a little bit. But of course, in hindsight, it would have been an interesting trade, definitely, because it did exactly what the technical setup told us to do, and the only factor against that was the speed of that move down.
Yeah, and also we were only going in for one contract, right? So we
Yeah,
wanted to you want to snipe that one contract. We didn't want to get in at a bad price. So it
yeah,
was being prudent. And it doesn't mean, I don't I think there's still potential we're gonna get a move back down here at some point
yeah.
today. Maybe not, but let's see.
All
Um,
right, so we are 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes left in this live trading session. Guys, if you have any symbol requests, ideally for futures, let us know. We can check them out uh, to see. Uh, okay, yeah, some stocks here. Palantir by Garrett. Let's look at some stocks real quick.
sure. Yeah.
See what the
And
market did to them this
starting to
morning.
see some retracement upwards on all symbols. Oops. PLTR. So NQ is coming back up to 21,000. MYM is retracing. Bitcoin's still sitting at our entry. Okay, so let's look at maybe the 30-minute and put liquidity IQ on the 2-hour. So TI matrix telling us at least on the low, and let me actually put this on a swing trading time frame. It only hops over when you're on auto to the swing trading time frame when you're on the hourly chart. So let me put it on swing trading. So it's kind of half-half. So overall, long term, it's kind of uptrending. Shorter term on the swing trading time frames, it's starting to commence a downtrend. So what do we see here on the 30-minute chart? Even with, wow, even with liquidity IQ only looking at the 2-hour, um, the nearest support below us is all the way down 50% drop away. I don't think it's getting there anytime soon. What has happened recently? Price came up, I don't know. I bet this isn't all-time highs. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. All these near-time highs up at $84. We fell down through the area it broke through, which was $20. It was ranging there for about a month and a half. We got a short bounce set up right here, no liquidity capture, but it bounced off $80 exactly, $80 and a penny basically. We fell all the way down to this support, which it had been ranging in for a month. A lot of trading volume, people expecting it to bounce at that support, right? We saw it start to slow down. That's why these levels are so good. It started to slow down. A lot of people buying in here, I would expect. Then it broke the level. A lot of people buying in here again. So probably on this day, there was a ton of buying volume, 69 million shares, and then it still dropped. So all those people, what was that, earnings or something? Do we have earnings? How do I set that to show us earnings?
Should be automatic, I think. I guess there was just not earnings around that corner.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
news. Um, anyway, so people were buying at this support. It didn't hold. They're all in the red. It dropped down. The next support was around $68 from these pivots, or 65 to 68. It started to slow down again there where people were buying again. And the sellers took over even more and it gapped down again. And then this was the next level, which we had broken through in the end of November, $66, and it lost that again. So I would expect it might range around that level, $66, maybe come up and fill this gap. But it is pretty bearish. It's not it's not looking so good.
Like
Um,
lots of technology has been bearish as of late. We may see a shift in the sectors. Technology obviously being the driver early on, or the last part of last year. We may see some shifts and perhaps even an overall shift in the markets. Who knows?
yeah, if I wouldn't go short here because I mean obviously at this point in time, just because we're so, we kind of missed the ride. Um, I don't know. Maybe you're looking at this, probably you're looking at this for when to enter long, right? Because this is obviously a generally very bullish stock. Where's the nearest area where there's lots of buying volume? We're kind of entering into it, right? So let's look at liquidity IQ maybe on the daily. And I have a feeling there's going to be very crazy levels. Yeah. So on the daily chart, the nearest level is at $28. So liquidity IQ on the long term, not telling us anything. So I'd go off volume IQ. I mean, just looking visually, there's a lot of trading activity over here around $60. And the nearest kind of shelf we have on volume IQ is like 61 bucks. So maybe, I don't know, maybe looking for like a risky long trade if we drop down to the lower 60s. What do you think, Daniel?
Um, um, I mean, I would just wait with this one. Who knows what's gonna happen? This was a very overextended stock, so the pullback or the correction may be just as deep as it went up. And we do have, I mean, worst case, the gap down there. When is it? Yeah,
It's
that's we
crazy.
may see a gap fill. I mean, who knows? But I would hold on with that one. Let's
I
do.
wonder what it looks like on the daily. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a
Sorry,
deep.
Daniel, what were you going to
It's a
say?
deep. It was very parabolic previously, and oftentimes when it's so overextended, the correction may be just as overextended as well, just as deep.
Yeah,
Is
and,
what kind of what we're seeing
one
right
thing
now.
like we always say with volume IQ is like the volume profile is telling you a story of what's happened historically. Look at this. All of the big time owners of this stock, the ones who own, who have bought in for billions of shares down here. That's all the way down here in the 20s and 30s. This parabolic drive upwards, these guys are banking big and not that much. They haven't been buying much more up here. They're probably selling. Look, there's only 50, 20 million, 40 million, 50 million shares. Not a lot of buying volume up here, even though it's flying up. In fact, the most volume that came in on a per level basis, like out of all of these levels, there's not even a billion shares traded or just close to it. But up here, there is a billion shares traded, like right here. So all the traders who bought in up here thinking, oh, it's going to go to the moon, they're all now losing. And the further it drops down through these buyers, all the guys, the traders who are buying here, are now going to be regretting their decision. And all the people up here who own lots of shares are regretting their decision, and they're going to be taking their losses the lower we go. So just logically thinking about the story of the chart, that might be a reason it might accelerate very quickly downwards. Um, yeah.
Let's
So
do
that's
let's do two more symbols real quick. A quick overview: Tesla and then DVN.
sure.
And
And I
hey,
just want
Aubrey,
to,
how's it going? Is it still sunny in Cyprus?
Bitcoin
Aubrey,
is
of
going our
course.
way a little bit.
Yeah,
Tesla daily chart. Wow, all the tech stocks look the same. Eh?
yeah,
So
kind of
good.
the same story. And Tesla being largely driven by also fundamental news and what's happening with the U.S. election and the association with, with Musk and Trump. So to me, not my cup of tea because God knows what's going to happen there, and anything in the news could shake the stock so much. Um, and of course, still Tesla in terms of selling, what in terms of revenue, what they're having, far behind regular or the more traditional car manufacturers. So this is something to always keep in mind. So this stock is hyped up. Will this hype continue? Maybe, but maybe not. And if it doesn't, we may see a deep correction there as well.
Yeah, what's their PE ratio? Isn't it like 70 or something like that?
Yeah.
Tesla PE ratio 108. And right now we're in a selling area. There's selling volume. two big things, right? So on the 21st, who knows what'll happen? I mean, obviously the stock flew up when Donald Trump won the election because of the association. And then um, Donald Trump's inauguration is then coming 1 week before Tesla's earnings. So I'm expecting some crazy stuff's probably going to be happening on the stock. And yeah, I would also stay away and wait to see what happens.
Yeah.
What
That's
was
the
the other symbol?
DVN from Aubrey.
Deviant, Devon
I'm
Energy.
glad for you, Aubrey. You have 18 degrees centigrade. Here in Montreal, it's around -10 with some snow, which is also nice. All right.
Oh, kind of a zone break retrace right here.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh, Are you short that trade, Aubrey? What did you say? He's long. Okay. Oof.
depends
Long.
where you're long from, I
Yeah,
guess.
of course. Exactly. Yeah, just be aware that we're approaching this resistance zone up top there. It used to be support. Now acting as resistance, you may see a bounce off that zone. So something to be aware of.
Yeah, traders sold a lot here. So there's obviously it's only looking back to like here or something, the profile. But traders sold, of course, here. We gapped up through there, and this is a down candle so far. I wouldn't be surprised if this gap got filled right here. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I would wait to see does it get above this and does it
yeah.
stay above this?
All right. Oh, he said he got a golden triangle long yesterday. That when you say golden triangle, Aubrey, do you mean a super signal, a golden one? Let us know.
I'm
And
sure.
then we have one user question that comes in. I think then we're gonna just revisit quickly our Bitcoin trade, and we're gonna close down the session. Do you see any super
I'm
signals?
just gonna put on the optimized settings once the indicator loads.
And which time frame is that, Aubrey? Is it the daily? Super signals, he
If you
confirmed.
did take a long on this yesterday, we actually kind of did already come up. If I was long here or any point down here, anywhere before yesterday, if I was long, I would have taken my profit right when we start to come up to here because this is probably the area it's going to retrace off of just based on the levels. So if you're in a profit, I don't know, just be aware of that. Um, Here, 953, 953. I don't see a super signal here with the optimal settings on the 1 hour.
Yeah, it's the daily. He says he's gonna sell now. All right.
Yeah, I would have done that too, because just because there's a chance we're going to see this gap get filled,
Yeah.
right? Of course, not trading advice, but it did. I mean, look at this. It's up 20% in 2 days or what? Sorry, 2 weeks. Our
Oh,
Bitcoin trade here, it's playing out in our favor. NQ is having trouble going much further than 21 below 21,000. We still have a higher low forming on the 15 minute, but Bitcoin is now starting to try and catch up
that was
with
the
that
original
drop.
thesis, huh? Do the exact same move again. Rinse and repeat, as we say.
Yeah, it's working
Yeah.
out so far.
Yeah. Even though, in hindsight, of course, we should have waited a bit longer with our entry because we saw it's gonna come up to that resistance zone on top. Um, had we waited, of course, no, we would have gotten an even better entry price. But yeah, just looking good. We're gonna lock in some profits there, Nicholas, as we closing out. Actually, gonna close out this position. We are. This may as well go any further, but since the session is done, I'm not gonna have time to monitor it afterwards, as also our live here goes on at Trading Indicators. The NTA version to be published and sent out on my end, and Nicholas also has a couple of things to do. Let's just do one quick question here from Ron. He wants to know how would we handle conflicting readings on Liquidity IQ? When he says conflicting, he means on different time frames. So let's say on the daily time frame, we get a bullish or a zone break reading versus on some other time frame, a magnet zone, for example. How would you interpret this? And to me, as you would first of all take everything into account, and then it really depends what is the horizon or the time frame or the expectancy of that trade you're trying to take. Do you expect it to keep it open just like we did here for like an hour or two? Well, then your decision maker should be the lower time frames, and the extra context comes in from the higher time frames. Of course, if it's a longer term trade, I wouldn't even bother so much with the lower time frames. I would just, primarily focus just on the higher time frames and above that to make your trading decision. So it really depends. But in the end, as Nicholas always says, and I really like this analogy, you have to just, figure out what the story of the market is. And this requires often taking into account different time frames and putting the story together as you see it. And once you have that story straight and it makes sense to you, then it's much easier to execute a trade and stick with it and follow through with it with your trading plan because you have a nice story in your head. And that's so important in trading.
Definitely. Yep, that's definitely it. And oh yeah, always look at a higher time frame than the one you're trading on, unless even if you're on the daily, check the weekly. Um, but no, it's not. I mean, that's 7 times higher than the daily. Most of the time, you're not going to be
Yeah.
holding the trade for years. That's I don't usually do that. I just check the daily. But like Daniel said, yeah, check the higher time frame. Keep in context. What's the time spent? What's the time horizon for your trade? Are you trading? You have to close by the end of the day. Look at the higher time frame, but maybe don't make your exact decision on it. And generally, defer to the defer to the higher time frame. That's why all our indicators look and try to give you higher time frame info.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's have a quick look at oil, just real quick to wrap this one up, and then I'm gonna close out the session. All right, so oil, yeah, still in this bounce state. Let's see what is happening. It's not as fast developing as I hoped. Once again, I like to see this bounce happen quickly, in and out kind of thing. But we'll see. Let's see if it consolidates. Definitely, it shows one more time the importance of these levels there. Because price actually stopped exactly at this support level as we expected it to do. Perfect. All right, guys. With that, I thank you all for joining us. Niklas, keep the slide on. Yeah, for the time being. The recording will be posted a bit later this afternoon on our YouTube page. So simply find our YouTube channel via our homepage, tradingindicators.com. And just to recap, Nicholas, we had two trades today, two short trades Bitcoin, something, of course, we didn't know before getting into this. This is exactly what makes these live trading sessions so exciting because you never know what's going to happen. It really depends on what the market does. So two nice shorts there. I'm happy with that little profit to round off the weekend for us here. And yeah, I hope you guys found it useful and you got some ideas on how to trade. Yeah, Garrett says very good today. Thanks, Garrett. Perfect. So with this, guys, enjoy the rest of your trading day today and hopefully see you soon. And what's next up? What's next, Nicholas? Oh, I'm back tomorrow already with
Oh
our
yeah.
swing trades of the week, our power scanning session. You will get an invite in your email today for that event tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern. And before that, for the German audience among us, I'll be on at 10 a.m. already with our friends from CapTrader doing a similar session, but in German. All right. So, guys, with that, enjoy your weekend and trade safe. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Niklas, for the
Bye.
wait.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.